Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1GV at your service to talk about a little scheme. Now, I've shown you other videos of this system, described how it works, and today I had to take this 8-foot whip antenna off of my pickup truck, big number 8, to get it ready for servicing. I'm going to have it in a garage, and they're going to put it up on one of those things where it rises up into the air. What the heck do you call that? A hydraulic lift? And I don't want that whip antenna to scrape the ceiling or otherwise get tangled up in stuff up on their ceiling. So I went through World War III to get that sucker off of that truck. Here's a little cautionary note. When you have a ball mount at the base of a whip antenna in a mobile application and you screw that whip antenna down real tight onto that ball mount and then leave it there for a few weeks, don't expect it to be very easy to get it off. I had to take that whole bloody ball mount off the truck to get that thing off of there. So now I don't have any antenna, except I do have the other antenna, the active tuning antenna system. But here's the gist of this video and why I call it Murphy's Nemesis. What I have done here is taken my radio, the venerable, young, oxymoron, the wonderful Yaesu FT857D mobile radio, powered by a marine battery in the vehicle, independently of the vehicle electrical system. Run it through a short length, about 2 feet of coaxial cable to a PAL star. That's also venerable. It's also young. Transmatch. And this 8-foot whip antenna is self-resonant as a quarter wavelength on 28 megahertz. So I don't need to use the tuner on that band and can in fact bypass it on that band. But I can force feed this antenna on other bands, including 6 meters, then the 12, 15, 17, 20, 40, and even 80 meter bands. I can get this thing to take power. I would expect it to be a pretty rotten antenna on 40 and 80 meters. 30 meters too, by the way. But I have used it on 20 meters, that's 14 megahertz and up, with amazingly good results. And what I'm actually doing here is I am force feeding this antenna through this 13-foot length of RG58U coaxial cable, regardless of whatever the SWR might be on this little length of line. Now on 28 megahertz, it's pretty good, about 1.2 to 1, 1.3 thereabouts. But on other bands, it's way too high for this radio to be happy without a transmatch. Well, the transmatch makes the radio happy, but it doesn't do anything about the standing wave ratio on this length of line. I would expect that in some cases the SWR could be as great as 10 to 1 on this line. Nevertheless, the fact that it's such a short length of line, 13 feet, led me to conclude that even with a 10 to 1 SWR, I could probably get this thing to perform pretty well on 18 megahertz, 21 megahertz, and that has proven, in fact, to be the case. I have worked a whole lot of DX from my Toyota Tundra pickup truck with only 30 watts of RF output coming out of this radio. Another caveat, by the way, if you run very much power into an antenna system like this with a mobile installation in a modern vehicle, expect potential problems with the computer in your vehicle if you run very much power at all. I found that on 21 megahertz, if I run more than about 50 watts of RF output there, my computer starts to think very weird things in that vehicle. It thinks that the RPMs have gone down to zero. It thinks that the speed has gone down to zero by the displays on the tachometer and the speedometer. They dip down to zero even if I'm going 65 mile an hour on the freeway. Fortunately, the vehicle doesn't stall or anything like that, and I don't know of any other ill effects. But if stuff like that happens, you don't know what that computer might start thinking. You know, when a computer starts getting, as it were, mentally disturbed, you probably want to be very careful about the things that you do to disturb it. But this particular system does constitute what I would call a bona fide Murphy's Nemesis, because this type of system, a high SWR like this on Coax, is generally considered a no-no. Now, I wouldn't want to run very much power, though, for another reason. It may be that the loss is acceptable on this line, but I don't think I'd want to see what would happen if I ran 500 watts into a line like that with an SWR like that. 58U with that kind of SWR could very easily melt the dielectric, either from overheating of the conductors or because of actual arcing across the dielectric because of this high SWR. You want to be careful with very, very high SWRs on coaxial lines, but I run such low power that I very seriously doubt there's any issue there. At least I haven't had any fires in the coax yet. Murphy, you listening? You listening? Maybe you catch my coax on fire. See how hard I laugh. Stan Gibilisco, W1GV. Signing off for now, saying 73, all you guys out there, you gals out there who have ham radio licenses, get on the air from your vehicle. It's a real hoot. Just watch those laws, though. Don't get pulled over and get a ticket. Till next time, so long.